If you can stop talking for 10 seconds, that would be fantastic. You want to hit the start timer on there? You want to hit? You want to start podcasting, genius?
Hey, Biff, what is the difference between being kinky and perverted?
Hello there, Governor. I don't know, Chim Chim Chiroo. What's the answer to this question?
Kinky is when you tickle your girlfriend with a feather. Perverted is when you use the whole bird. Hey, I thought you chuckled. You yeah.
No. I was remembering a Benny Hill episode just now. Righto.
All right,
I still think Benny Hill's funny. Holds up real nice. Right in it.
I'm going to mess this up. With my speech impediment, why am I going to try to tell this joke? But here we go, Biff. What is the difference between a genealogist and a gynecologist?
Oi, that's the ticker right there, ain't it? I don't know what accent I'm doing now. I could go Aussie, hello. Or I could go back to Cockney, eh? This is wacky old Biff, you know. I'm a transplant from Australia who moved to the suburbs of London. Is that what they call it? I mean, I should know. I'm Australian British Biff, I am. Sorry, you asked a question that I completely dodged. I'm like the Artful Dodger, eh?
The difference between a genealogist and a gynecologist. The genealogist looks up the family tree. The gynecologist looks up the family bush.
Hey. Oh, you're a cheeky one, aren't you?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Carnival Personnel. This is Jacques.
And that was a weird ass Biff that I tried to do there. You know what? I don't premeditate what accent I'm going to appropriate when you ask or say, hey, Biff, and he's not here.
Well, I think we just have to blame Biff. Like, you wouldn't have to do fake Biff if Biff was here. So really, I'm working because I'm a responsible person who's conscientious about his projects.
Yep. Yeah, I know. I don't know why I'm compelled to do any sort of accent when I'm pretending to be Biff. I think it's because I have to change my voice somehow. So that's the route I've taken. I mean, next time I might go Popeye the Sailor Man next time. I don't know. You know what? Write in your suggestions in the comments. Oh, we disabled the comments in our videos? Nah.
You keep mentioning that. Do you want me to enable these comments? Because I do not.
I kind of don't. I don't. Yeah. I mean.
So Joe and I just, it's not going to drop for several weeks, but we just recorded a great podcast with Tyler Morrison, who is a comedian he lives 2 hours north of Toronto, but, a very successful working Canadian comic. He has his own comedy festival. I met him at the Boston Comedy Festival this year. He has a great Fight Stories is the name of his podcast. It started about people talking about, with hockey fighters, and it's morphed into everybody fight. It's great. It's a lot of fun. Yesterday, because Biff, or Friday, because Biff has a real job and he's a grown up, and Joe has a real job and he's a grown up, they couldn't join me. And I talked to Mark Riley, a career minor league referee, 30 plus year as a referee after college hockey. He decided if he was going the next level, it was not going to be as a player. But Joe met Mark. He's a headline comedian in New England, and I hosted for him a couple weeks ago. But last week's guest, it was absolutely so much fun talking to our good friend, not an over exaggeration, our good friend in comedy, Liam Hale.
Liam Hales.
Hales with an S, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, he is a funny guy, a complicated person, um, but yeah, and he's just a sweetheart of a man.
Gentle giant, I believe the term is.
Right.
No, I work with him a lot. He's runs Jim McHugh's shows on Saturday night in Portsmouth and does a lot of Smitties and is uh is an essential part of the production of Boston Comedy Festival. So, but that was, we had a great talk with him. I knew he was in LA, but it's funny how many of the same people that we knew at different times, because I wasn't doing comedy when he was out there, but some of the friends I'm friends with now, were like he knows Dante and he knows Sally. So that was a really fun podcast last week. And circling back to disabling the comments on the social media, have such a hard time on the social medias writing my name right without Joe texting me saying, "Hey, you spelled Jacques wrong. You might want to fix that post." That I can't imagine how much more stress my life would be if I'm like, "Hey, your mom's saying what a piece of shit you are on the YouTube comments again." So,
Or other people correcting your grammar and
Right.
or like the dates on which you were performing
Oh.
future shows, like they know that you're really performing on Friday when you said on the post that you're posting, doing it on Saturday.
Twice last week I posted the wrong dates for two different shows, and thank goodness that Joe caught them and I was able to fix them. And not that anybody reads them, and not that anybody's like, "Oh, I planned my whole weekend around you being there on Saturday, not on Friday, so I can't."
You never know who's watching or listening. You just, and if you're going to pretend to be kind of semi-professional about this stuff, then you might at least want to start with promoting the right dates and
That
venues.
would help. That would help. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, when the goats have better publicity than the comedian performing at the goat expo. Is that what they called them? Goat expos.
Goats to go. Now that was a. I will always refer to it as one of the best / worst shows simultaneously ever. I mean,
Yeah.
it was pretty horrible, but pretty awesome. So, but the big thing is I got media coverage out of it. So there's something to put on the website when I get the website up and going, which hopefully is sooner than later.
Does anybody use the web anymore, really?
Yes, sadly, but I don't know. But it was nice that it got covered anyway. But yeah,
Yes.
At least twice this week, Joe has caught major boo-boos in my posting. It's like, "Hey, dum-dum, go fix this."
I'm like the Great Gazoo. I just, hello, dum-dum.
Oh,
You're
man.
not performing at Nick's on Saturday. You're performing on Nick's on Friday.
We'll get into that. So on Friday, Nick's Comedy Stop was the first place I saw live comedy. I went with my friend Dara Waugh in 1986. Had to pay a little something extra to the door guy, who might have been the same door guy working the other night. So it was like Nick's Comedy Stop is like Caroline's in New York. It's the Comedy Store in LA. It truly is one of the pillars of stand up in this country. Like the people who have come from there, I won't even get into the list, but I'm going to say all of them have come through the Comedy Store. It's been around since the 70s, and the stories are legendary. But I finally got to get up there and tell my little stories, and it was awesome. And Joe was there, which really made it a great night. And I because of Joe's having me correct the post, I was able to post about it being on the right night.
Yep. Yeah, it was a fun time. We ran into Lauren Sims in the audience, former podcast guest, correct?
Yep.
Right. We should.
Indeed.
It's starting to get all blurry because I'm seeing these people over and over again, and I can't remember if it's because I first met them on the podcast that I know them, or is it just because you've introduced me to them 17 times at these shows that I tag along to and don't pay for? So, oops, I shouldn't have said the other part out loud.
You are paying dearly.
One way or another.
Yeah, to hear me go a minute and a half over my time and mistell a joke. I mean, believe me, you pay your pound of flesh.
What else is new? I mean, yeah. Hey, honestly, it was hard to see the light notification that you're supposed to get in that room. It was hard to tell a joke on that room without fear of falling off the stage. I mean, that stage was built, and they built out the DJ podium right behind where the comics stand on this stage. Basically, it's now a nightclub that kind of doubles as a comedy club, earlier in the evening. So that takes priority over the stage for a comedian, right? Is to have that DJ podium. But anyways, yeah, it was an eclectic kind of space. I don't know. I mean, it's Nick's, and it's supposed to be like the place to go for comedy. But yeah, the room, I don't know. It's constructed oddly where you're not like the laughs don't reverberate much when there are laughs. And then in the summertime, the AC is just blasting. So.
And the stage is really high up.
Yeah, right.
I mean, if you're sitting in the back where you were, it's not that bad. But the first 5 rows there, it's like being in a movie theater and sitting in the front row.
It's a good thing you didn't wear your mini skirt. That's all I'm saying.
Or a bad thing, depending on how twisted and sad your point of view is. Yeah, and then the next night, I did a Dave Radigan show, and that was pretty fun. That was pretty fun.
Dave Radigan's a comedian, right?
Who we've had on the podcast, who is great. He's a booker. He's also he's in Japan. Yeah, I think he's coming back like today, but he actually took his daughter to Tokyo as a graduation present from college. That's where she said she wanted to go. That was her present. And over the pandemic, he was doing virtual shows with an American who works in television over there, but is also a comedian and does club shows now that, you can do those again. So it was great that Dave did that. But I did his show, a show that he booked in Manchester, and that was a lot of fun. Actually, a decent crowd, but the crowds here have been and I didn't know that. Like, I wasn't getting booked on shows last summer. I wasn't at that point. I had just started to get like book shows, like a one show at the Luna type thing. But I was really worried about being in LA all summer, even though I have contacts there and I could do real shows. But I had some good stuff going on here this year. And I was like, gosh, I probably shouldn't be gone all July and August. And now I realize, go. There's nothing that.
Right. Nobody else is around July and August in Massachusetts or in the Boston area, Yeah, it's like, like I said on the other podcast, it's like an evacuation order, around here. Right. It's like once July, right before July 4th, it's like, just get the hell out of Boston, or if you're going to be in Boston, don't hang around outside too long because it's just going to be, humid and gross. And, but everybody goes to the Cape, everybody travels,
I didn't. And now that I know that, I didn't know that Jim McHugh doesn't do his Smitty shows at all in July and August, just because if you're going to be up in Maine, it's the 6 weeks you can possibly get a beat at beach in Maine that you don't want to be inside, Smitty's watching comedy. Also, honestly, it's hard to have a comedy show kick off when it's still bright outside.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel like, oh, I'm going to a nightclub. I'm going to a comedy club. My biggest feat in comedy this past week came in front of an audience of one. Things were getting a little dicey at the home front with our little guy, and management said, you have to get him out of here before things really go sideways. So it's like 10:30 at night. So I'm like, okay, we're just going to drive around a little bit, let everything de-escalate. Nothing's open. Like, nothing around here is open at all. I'm like, oh, I know about 8 miles away, there's an IHOP. Yeah, it's not a 24-hour IHOP, even though as you're driving up to
stores?
it, sadly, no. But yeah, as we're pulling in, the IHOP thing says 24 hours, or it's just the old Stephen Wright joke.
Not in a row.
So we end up going to this place, a Red Arrow Diner, and I kind of forgot it's a little Trumpian.
It's the Arrowhead Diner.
Yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
the Arrowhead Stadium?
Yeah, there you go. So we sit down. There's only a couple people there. I'm like, I hate giving any place like this money. But we're just getting fries, and he's going to get a milkshake. And he opens a menu, and he sees a Trump burger, and he's like, "Oh." I said, "Yeah," and it was just awesome. So he's 14, and I'm like, "Yeah, it's really weird, Squish, because the guy who owns this place, uncle, died at Auschwitz." And he had this face like of horror, like, "Oh, that's really too bad." And I took that perfect beat, and then I said, "Yeah, he fell out of the guard tower." And it's such an old joke, and his 14-year-old, and he's really quick, but it took him a second to rebuff her. and comprehend that what I actually said is simultaneously horrifying and hilarious. And I don't know if he's laughed at a joke I've told any better, because and the perfect thing of the location and all that stuff. So I might not have. I did okay at Nick's. I didn't kill, but I feel really good between Nick's and that little showcase in front of Squishy. Yeah, I'd say it was a successful week of comedy.
And then do you segue right into the Polish material after that, or I don't know?
No, and I posted this a couple weeks ago, and we had a little discussion. We'll just touch on it, just maybe not say the word touch on or the term touch on it, but I had to go to the bike shop last week, and it's funny because you are usually the dark, gloomy one, and I'm the ray of sunshine and ponies. But it turns out when it comes to bike shops, my go-to is Different Strokes, and poor Dudley, who was the victim.
Hey, what about poor Gordon Jump, who had to portray the pedophile? Hey, man,
That is true. Yeah.
He was the lovable GM of WKRP in Cincinnati for years, and he swore to God as his witness, that turkeys could fly. But no, when you said bike shop, you associated with the unfortunate the Bicycle Man, two-parter from Different Strokes, where, if those of you don't know, the proprietor of the bicycle shop, played by Gordon Jump, was a pedophile, and he had a back room where he brought Dudley and Gary Coleman, aka Arnold, to take pictures of them with their shirts off, and they were playing this game called Neptune, King of the Sea. And he showed them like dirty adult cartoons, like I think they were supposed to be like Fritz the Cat or something, and like magazines and stuff. And thank God that was a different time. That doesn't happen anymore. We don't have those types of people. We've cured pedophilia. Just getting word. No.
Catholic Church is still around.
That will be around for forever, and so we'll have to keep fighting them pedophiles. But when I think of a bicycle shop, my go-to is Chuck's Bike-O-Rama from Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I mean, that's the seminal bicycle shop from my generation. So, there's the generation gap between you and I. I think of Dottie working at Chuck's Bike-O-Rama for, and trying to, woo Pee Wee Herman into going on a date, and him somehow rebuffing this very cute woman. I don't understand. I mean, but I know why. He's a loner. He's a rebel. He doesn't want her to get mixed up with a guy like him. But yeah, anyways.
Go ahead, do the whole line. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. There are things that he does that she couldn't I'm sorry. There are things that he does that she couldn't understand. Things she wouldn't understand. Things she shouldn't understand. Something like that.
There's a lot of things about me you don't know anything about, Daddy. Things you wouldn't understand. Things you couldn't understand. Things you shouldn't understand.
I don't understand.
You don't want to get mixed up with a guy like me. I'm a loner, Daddy. A rebel.
Anyway, I'm gonna stop. I should have stopped. God damn it! I should have stopped earlier.
No, I made you go. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, peer pressure. You succumb to my
I saw
peer
you.
pressure.
Yep.
The look of happiness in my eyes when you go off the rails and start quoting something.
Oh, and the speed at which people hit skip 30 on the podcast if they're listening. By the way, welcome to 5 minutes later.
Oh man. Well, we have a lot of comedy coming up in our futures in a few weeks. We'll talk about it more the next time. Yeah, by the next time we record, trying to do the math in my head, I will have just been getting back from St. Louis.
Nathan Johnson.
And but the week after that, management is going to be out of town for 13 days, and I've already mandated Joe curates a good 13 days of television watching, which will include, of course, all the game shows that we love from the 60s and the 70s and even the
80s.
You know, a couple made-for-TV movies in there. You know, maybe watch another Battle of the Network Stars. Who knows? But we got 13 days to record a couple podcasts, work on a couple projects, but mostly utilize that time watching stuff that came out 50 years ago on TV.
You know, I do still have a job and family, unfortunately.
You know
I can't
what?
move in.
You got vacation time. You know, you got vacation time, and the family. Look, your kids are out of high school now. You're over. You're done.
Right. I know. I should be out on good behavior. Right. Isn't that the case?
You know what? I'm lobbying hard. But hopefully, you know, we will be. And as of right now, I don't know what shows I have, but I don't even want to do shows. I would much rather stay home and just, you know, work on a couple projects we've talked about. But anyways, and also by the time we get together next, and we will only talk politics for 1 second here, and I promise. But I am so stomach turned once again by the Democrat Party, who Joe Biden did not have a great debate, and the rats jumping the ship. It's just absolutely like the governor of Massachusetts has a press conference telling him to drop out. It's like, you know, like the instead of pointing out the amazing infrastructure deal, or that the stock market's at an all-time high and unemployment's at an all-time low. And it's one of those things where I really think it's so self-serving, because if he loses, they can say, oh, well, I told him he should have done this, you know, so I'm really smart. Everybody listen to me. On the other side of the fence, guy gets convicted of 34 charges, and people who support him don't support him any less. They double down their support, you know, absolutely quadruple like their support. It's just disgusting. And
evil will always triumph because good is dumb.
100%. Like I've said it since I've been cognizant enough to understand how politics work in this country. The one thing that, and I know it's such an outdated statement. I don't even know if I'm allowed to use the term circle the wagons anymore, but that's what, you know, they did in the Old West. They would circle up the wagons, you know. The Republicans will circle the wagons like nobody's business. They'll hate somebody, like, you know, like, I don't even want to get down there because we all can have 1,000 examples. The only thing that the Democrats are doing is the circular firing squad. You know, a Republican, I hate 90% of what this guy stands for, but I'm going to vote with him 100% of the time. Democrats are like, well, I agree with this guy 95% of the time.
Yeah. Well, listen, I don't disagree with the questioning Biden's ability. Listen, if you're going to be the bullshit caller outers, as Republicans or Democrats and liberals are known to be, you know, yeah, it kind of makes sense that they're going to be like, well, you know, maybe we should sort of reevaluate whether or not he is capable of, you know, winning, A, beating Trump, and C, actually being a president for 4 more years. But you're going to do it now. Like you're doing it fucking now.
Right.
You sat on your ass for 4 goddamn years and you didn't have a backup plan. And now you're scrambling and now you're thinking, well, maybe we should call for his stepping down. And I'm also kind of like really taken aback by the so-called liberal media's immediate push and question, like, should Joe Biden step down? And listen, I get it. It's like a really sexy topic to talk about, and it's gonna anger up a lot of blood and drive a lot of ratings home for
that's all.
The
that's
Sunday
all it
morning
is.
talk shows.
That's all
Right.
it is.
It's kind of like, okay, this is like we got less than 2 months until the fucking convention, and yeah. Now we're starting to see that the wheels are starting to come off on the Biden train, but we're gonna call into question everything that was in motion.
Well,
at this point,
and here's the reality of the situation. The infighting. First of all, it's too late. Second of all, he's been a great president. Like, take away all the bullshit, the things that have got accomplished.
Well, he did overturn Roe v. Wade. That was a bad thing.
100%. Yeah, that was him.
Yeah.
But right. I mean, everything that is going right. The economy is going right. All the things I mentioned. But here's the vacuum. There's no heir apparent to step in. Because Kamala Harris isn't beloved in the party. She's
invisible.
She's not going to win anything. Newsom, who, yeah, okay, maybe next time Newsom's ready to start running. But the thing is, it's not even the media. It doesn't matter what party is in power. The other party that has a primaries, those stages for 4 months, it's infighting between those people, whittling it down to get to a candidate, type thing. We have less than 4 months to the election, 3.5 months to the election. That process, what are you going to, who are the 3 front runners? And are they going to debate? Are they going to dirty each other up before, they don't have time?
But it's bullshitty because look, we had the primary season's over. It's not wabbit season, it's duck season. We had February was the time in which to maybe challenge, and I know fucking Robert Kennedy, nut job, the asshole, whatever, he doesn't count. I'm talking about nobody was going to challenge an incumbent president, especially the guy who beat Donald Trump the first time, right?
By 7 million votes.
Yeah. So now, he falls on his ass on a debate that he called for, by the way. And, well, there was this, he had a cold, he was flying, he's too old to be president. Whoops, not that last part. We didn't mean to say that last part.
The other guy is only 2 years younger.
I know that neither of them should be president. Neither of them should be running for president.
And that's my favorite. When I say, I did a show with a comedian last night who was talking about, Joe Biden's creepy. It's like, the way he sniffs women when he hugs them. It's like, and the guy who was just convicted of raping a woman in a civil trial because there's a statute of limitation on rape, not on speeding tickets. I found out a couple years ago, but on raping, there's a statute of limitation. But he was found guilty in court for that. Grab him by the pussy. This whole and you want to say Joe Biden is creepy? Okay,
right.
This guy literally had diamond status on Epstein Airlines, and you want but you want to say that Joe Biden? It's like
right because he's affectionate and like he's actually he's affectionate towards people that he really cares for, and it's like he's an old man. He's an old man. There's a video of Joe Biden from 1974, who I guess he took over for. He was elected into a position that was once seated by an older, person, and in the video, Biden says basically I hope when I'm older, people aren't judging me not on my age, but by the merit of my work, essentially. And here we are.
Right.
He's too old. Forget all the stuff that you did, and yeah, he fell off his bike a couple of years ago, and people were making fun of that. It's like, and my sons were making fun of that. They thought it was funny. I said, okay, I want you to close your eyes, try to visualize the other guy riding a bike. I can't.
Right. Right. So it's like, oh, so you're going to make fun of an 80-year-old guy falling off a bike, but the 78-year-old obese guy, anyways,
Yeah.
my only hope, and I know it's not going to happen, in 3 days from now, the sentencing. And because the Supreme Court has burnt down the Constitution, because the Supreme Court has ruled that, yes, indeed, when you're president, you are king. And you can absolutely shoot somebody on Fifth Ave.
Only if you're not doing it for personal gain. See, now that's the thing. So but who decides that? Well, I guess that would be the Supreme Court now, wouldn't it? So the Supreme Court can decide whether or not something that was potentially illegal that was done by their president was done for the good of the country or for the good of the individual that was perpetrating the so-called crime.
So when he calls the governor of Georgia and says, you have to steal the election.
No, I just need 20,000 votes or whatever it was.
Right. That's for the good of the country.
That's for the good, not because he specifically needs it. No. But luckily we have a tribunal that a religious council. A Supreme Court that will and suss these things out for us.
And between that, and honestly, the 6 people who listen to the podcast already have read I don't know if you've actually had the fortitude to read the 1-page bullet point.
Project 2025.
Right.
Yeah.
Dude, our country's done.
Now,
and not our country. Like, I think it's in the first 5 things is withdraw from the UN, withdraw from NATO, which means the Ukraine instantly goes away.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Project 2025, if you don't know what that is, look it up. Second of all, I'm hoping, I know it's not in this case, but I'm hoping it's some sort of like QAnon type, one guy wrote this, on a Word document and posted it on the internet, and it just sort of like caught on from there. And it's not really a conspiracy to overthrow democracy.
No, the thing is, once again, they're screaming this from the rooftop. They are bragging about, I just saw footage of the guy running for governor. He's the lieutenant governor in North Carolina, standing at a podium. And look, I'm going to say it. I fucking hate black people who are Republicans, who are standing in a church where everybody is white, saying that there are people who need to die. Like flat out saying that liberals need, and I'm not paraphrasing, I just saw it myself. If you're gay and a Republican, if you're a minority and a Republican, if you're a woman and a Republican, and you're not only voting that way, but you're screaming for people to vote that way, dude, they're going to come for you. Maybe not on day 1 or day 2, but trust me, they're going to get around to finding a reason to put you on their hit list too, and that's just the facts. There's absolutely, I stand by that comment more than anything I've ever said. That if you're any kind of minority in this country and you're voting for Republican, you are dumb. Like,
and that's by the way, just to clarify, not straight, not white, not male. Like, if you're not any of those things,
and if you're poor, like they want to take away the restrictions, and they've been saying this for day 1. They don't want companies to be burdened by having to offer any kind of health care. At the same time, they don't think the government should be involved in healthcare at all. They want to, it's in the top 5 or 6 things that they want to repeal Obamacare. Of course, they've been saying that since day 1.
Medicare.
But they want to cut Medicare, cut Social Security. And they're saying it. They're saying we need to get away from these things. Also, what very little got accomplished, insulin for people over 65 capped at $35. Like the Republicans, fought so hard because the Democrats wanted everybody who's diabetic to be able to, live. I mean,
look at the world. Do you really want to go on?
And it's a really good point. And honestly, they're bragging about taking away any restrictions, or also repealing all green initiatives. Like basically they, you know what? Who's to say that the toxic waste they dumped into the Chattahoochee River, really, not the Chattahoochee, Cuyahoga, the Cuyahoga River, and you're too young for this, but maybe you know about the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland. I think it was 72, 73.
The lake lake on fire.
Caught on fire for a week. It took them a week to put the river out. They want to go back to that. And again, I'm not paraphrasing. They're flat out saying that over the last 40 years, all these liberal agenda for the environmental things and all this stuff, of course, climate change is a hoax. So they don't want to, they literally want to take away all these things. So if you have a job where you're being offered health insurance, these people are saying, yeah, we're going to, don't worry, people who own the company, we're not going to have these pesky restrictions.
And they want to, but the other thing is they want to increase tax breaks for corporations and stuff. Like it's like every evil thing.
And raise retirement age to 70.
Yeah. I mean, it's like,
but they're open about it.
This world is not for for you. Like this is for them. This is for the uber elite.
And again, this isn't conspiracy theory. These people are running on the 2025 project, and now they're lining up to be different lieutenants. And honestly, anyways, it makes me sick. My only hope is that on the 11th, that the judge who sentenced him, even if it's just 30 days, 60 days, if he doesn't get any kind of repercussions for his actions now, he never will. And I mean, literally, when he wins, of course, all those charges go away because all the other charges are federal charges. But yeah, I mean, all the other things he's been convicted of, in New York, paying those fines, the Eugene Carroll thing, even though those are civil things, they're state charges, he will accept, it's like, anyways, the only hope is that, and look, I'm not worried about violence breaking out because, like I said, just this guy running for lieutenant governor of North Carolina, more and more people are saying, like liberalism is a disease that needs to be vanquished, that there is a revolution coming. And I forget which, it was, it's a politician, which one of them just said, it's like, well, there doesn't have to be bloodshed, but that's if they come to their senses. Basically, people like you and I, Joe, get on board or they're going to they're flat out saying there's going to be violence in the street if they don't get their way anyways. So hopefully this judge understands he is the last line of any possible repercussions to any of his actions.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, yeah. I'm not optimistic. Well, okay, now we'll talk about fun stuff again. I, in the last 2 weeks, have probably watched more sports than I have in the last 2 years because the Premier League, all the European Soccer League, like semifinals, finals, quarterfinals have been televised. Now there's the big tournament, the Euros, where all the European countries are competing, and Copa America, which is the big football tournament from every country from Canada down to is Argentina the most southern country in South America?
Yeah, like Argentina and Chile.
Yeah. And it's just been great. Like every single day there's one or two really, really good games on. Sometimes I'm watching the games. I have the computer, I'm getting stuff down, but I'm watching it on Telemundo because there's no U.S. coverage, even the European games here. But it's great. Just by the excitement of the voice, okay, you got to look up from the computer because...
When is there not excitement in the voice?
Dude, it is so much fun. It is so much fun to listen to the Telemundo announcers, and I know how cliche that is. But right now, as we record this, on Tuesday... Spain is playing in the semifinals, and it's England and the Netherlands and the other semifinals. And I'm excited about that. Little controversy in Copa America where Christian Pulisic, who is known as Captain America, the captain of the USA team, and just hands down our greatest footballer ever. The announcers on all sides the whole game were pretty much saying the officiating was really bad. I know you're not supposed to blame the official, but in a 1-0 loss, it was horrible. And Plisnik, who's not an overly emotional guy, like did go up to the refs after the game and point to the Uruguayan locker room and says, "Hey, aren't you supposed to be in there celebrating with them?" But yeah, it's been all football all the time here, but it all wraps up in the next week, and then back to waiting for next season's European football to start.
Well, there's always reruns of Ted Lasso, to keep you busy.
There is.
And you also have Deadpool and Wolverine coming up in a couple of weeks. So
January 26th. It's Christmas. I cannot wait.
July 26th.
July 26th, just a couple of weeks. I'm very, very, very excited about that. I'm guessing you're not watching a lot of football. You watch any sport? You want to just dive right into what you're watching on your Plex account?
I've been watching a lot of like older game shows. Yeah, I just finished the Gene Wilder documentary on Netflix, Remembering Gene Wilder. It's kind of like a greatest hits and like a little hidden gems of Gene Wilder's career. And then of course, sadness, because of course, he married Gilda Radner, and then, he got sick later in life, and, he got Alzheimer's, and that's what took him eventually. So, of course it wraps on like a very, bittersweet note. But all in all, yeah, Mel Brooks is heavily interviewed. And it's amazing the longevity that Mel Brooks has. He's 98. He's working on Spaceballs 2 with Josh Gad. There's just a lot more for him to go. He's got stuff lined up, for the next couple of years. So when he does celebrate his 100th birthday, he can go out with a bang. But it's also sad that like he's talking about all of these younger people who have since passed. Like he's talking about Gene Wilder in the past tense. He's talking about, Cleavon Little. He's talking about, like Zero Mostel, which actually he was older. But anyway, yeah, it's sad. But at the same time, it's nice just to like, see a documentary about a nice man, that, and like that paired with the LeVar Burton Reading Rainbow documentary. That's an uplifting one. That one is not as downbeat eventually as the Gene Wilder one. But and then game shows. I'm watching game shows. Yeah, I'm stockpiling. Super Password again. Bert Convy. That's another guy who. He had a sad end. Like he was, 1990, he just wrapped Super Password in 89. He was working on another show. He was supposed to be doing the new Match Game in 1990. And then he was visiting his mother and then like collapsed. And it turned out he had a brain tumor. And yeah, so like, then he was, gone within like months. Like it didn't take very long. I guess he was also going in more Bert Convy stuff that you didn't ask for, but you're getting. He was going through an ugly divorce with his ex-wife for like since 87, and then he had since met like a 25-year-old woman who he fell in love with. And when he was diagnosed with cancer, he went to his ex-wife and said, "Can we just finalize the divorce so I can get married and die married to this woman?" And she granted it. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a nice fitting, a nice touch, at the end there. But anyways, they're all dead is what I'm saying. They're all gone. Not Pat Sajak though. Pat Sajak, he's alive, and great.
We also haven't finished, or I haven't finished it. I don't know if you're still waiting. The Steve Martin part 2 of the Steve Martin documentary.
I haven't touched it since we watched
good.
it.
So we will finish that. No, yeah, but it's nice that like, he is still working. I'm cautiously optimistic about Spaceballs 2.
Yeah, I mean,
History of the World.
Part 2 was kind of a swing and a miss. There was a couple of okay moments, but for the most part, kind of like the wrong tone. But he's working with Josh Gad and I guess somebody I think the other writers had worked on like Lego movies or something like that.
Okay.
So we'll see. We'll see. I think it's a different crew.
So other than watching lots of football, I did watch just because I weird. I watched, I don't know why, the 1937 original A Star Was Born, and great.
Yeah.
It's great. You know, I mean,
was that
nobody,
Oh.
no huge names in it. Like,
Okay.
you know, a couple working people from the era, but there was no like, oh wow, this was so and so. You know what I mean?
Right, because the Judy Garland one was a '50s remake, right?
And then yeah, she you know, but I'm trying to think. It's like the later ones on the remakes, it became, you know, they used bigger name stars
Like
and stuff
Barbara
like that.
Streisand and Lady
Right.
Gaga.
So it's been remade 3 times. Like it's like came out in 1937, and then like in 50 something, and then in like the 70s, and then, you know, like 10 years ago it was, or however long ago it was, with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper.
Janet Gaynor, by the way, was
Yeah.
the actress who played the lead in the 37.
And Fred, for a second I'm like, wait, Fred Mertz? No, it's not Fred Mertz, but something like that. Who was a
Frederick March.
you know, a known actor in the 30s and 40s, you know, but it was great. Watching a lot of Doctor Who. Almost done with season 10. I thought I was done with season 10 a week ago, but oh wait, I guess it's not over yet. Oh, I guess he's not anyway. So, but that's still awesome. And then Ghost. You know, we're almost done with season 2 of Ghost, and it is great. I mean, there's so many episodes that are causing feelings and stuff, and just it's just
like
awesome.
it's kind of like a Good Place, you know, like that kind
Yes.
of vibe, you know. I like that. It's sort of like existentialism, you know, motif, but also I guess heavily inspired by Beetlejuice, right? Like there's a lot of
A little bit, yeah.
yeah, a lot of parallels there.
Well, what's funny is there's so many tropes, or there's so many like pop culture references from sci-fi and the occult that they bring into this. They're like, oh, is this like a Beetlejuice thing, or is this? It's like, hey, this is X, Y, and Z type stuff, you know. But the real world exists within that world,
Yeah.
like type thing, which is
Right,
always
they do a Newhart reference.
right, yeah, more than a reference, you know, which is exquisite. No, I really do like that. I also management and I watched Godzilla -1, but I'm going to table that talk until Biff's here, because that's, you know, one of his favorites. Like he says it might be number 1A when it comes to Godzilla movies.
Oh yeah, I finally saw that, and
Yeah.
Godzilla -1, and it's a
They
good
made an
movie.
old Godzilla movie. Like it felt like an old Godzilla movie without any like the dust hit on the frames of the film. You know what I mean? No, it was fantastic. Absolutely liked it. But we'll talk more about that with Biff. And but we'll wrap with you got a parenting tip there, Mister. Successfully got 2 kids through
can't
high
hear you.
school.
I don't know what you're saying. I can't hear you. There's something wrong. Like for some reason, what? You're saying tip? Do I have steak tips? What? Yeah, I mean,
Just the tips.
I could go for them. You know what? Get back to me when your connection gets better. What? Oh, that reminds me. Do you have a parenting tip?
So I actually do. And it had an interesting parenting moment this week where my oldest kid asked if he could do something stupid. You know, he's a lifeguard. His second year, it's a new crew, and there's one kid on this crew who is this cool kid who he and a couple friends jumped a train in Lowell and wound up in Chicago like a couple months ago, and then had to jump a train to get back type thing. And they do these things, and it's funny because he asked. He goes, it was 4th of July. He goes, hey, they're going to meet up and climb on top of like a billboard to watch the fireworks, and asked if I wanted to go. And it was really interesting because I realize he's asking me so I can say no, so I can be his out, you know, because I would not have asked my parents.
Yeah, that's not something you ask permission for. You know what they're going to say.
Right. So I made the decision in my head. I'm like, I told him, dude, you're old enough to make decisions on your own. I said, but you're at that age where, yeah, if something goes sideways, it's not this like little cute, get out of here, you little scamps. You know what I mean? It's like,
Chargers may be pressed.
And I said, you got a lot of great stuff going on. Is this something that you want to be dealing with for the next 6 months, year? Is somebody going to fall and get hurt? Is it you who's going to fall? Somebody else? It's like, and I honestly told him, I said, if it's a situation where cops come, you can't run very well. If there was an ocean nearby, you could swim away.
Right. If you were like Aquaman, he could just sort of dive and then disappear.
Water's your thing, but it's like, yeah, you're not going to be able to climb the fence and run away from the cops, unless the cop looks like me. And a lot of them do.
Chief Wiggum.
So it was an interesting parenting thing where it's like, okay, I can tell him. And what I ended up telling him is, look, if no matter what you do, if you decide to do something and you realize it's dumb, call me, I'll come get you. If you want to use me as the bad guy, if you want to save face and meet up with somebody, but let me know where it is and I can come find you and yell at you in front of them to get in the car so that they don't think, that like you were a wuss. I'm always happy to play that role, but I didn't say, look, I know you're asking me, so I will say no. But I did. It's like, I did. I used that moment to say, you know what? You're smart enough to make your own decisions. But I did it in a way like, don't disappoint the entire family tree by doing something that I would have 100% done when I was half your age. Right. Yeah, and maybe had like I'm like, and I told him, I said, I know you hear these stories from my friends and Auntie Kim and my brother, like all the insane stuff I've done and all the bones I've broken and all that kind of stuff. It's like, would I do it all again the same way? Yes, I 100% would. But I did it in an age without cell phones, back then there was no permanent record. You know what I mean?
There was talk of it.
There was a lot of talk of quicksand back then too.
Yep.
And yet in my adult life, no quicksand incidents.
Is the earth rising?
Oh, but that was my parenting tip. It's like, you know what?
You're a big boy now.
But I had texted Biff. I don't know if it was a group thing, but I said, hey, that if anything goes sideways, you could always find me in the Drift, which is a line from Pacific Rim. Which as soon as I said it to him, I'm like, I want to go watch Pacific Rim now. Just haven't had the 2 hours to do that. But that's
you
me.
You can't watch it in 20 minutes. What's wrong with you?
No, it's not one of those.
Oh, you savor every moment. Okay, I got it. That and It's a Wonderful Life. And a couple of others. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, yeah. Like you don't watch Star Wars or anything like that on Skip. No, that's good. You know what? I wish I could do this podcast on Skip, but unfortunately, we got to do it in real time, baby. But we at Carnival Personnel value your time, listener. So we will end this charade. Yeah, that's right. It's a charade. This is a mask of tragedy, not comedy, tragedy. Sorry, fooled you once again. You thought you were coming here for laughs, but instead we sandbagged you with realities about the American political climate. Harken back to the olden days, the bad old days of 2020 and 2019 and 2018 and 2017 and 2016. Well, we weren't around in 2016 as a podcast. And maybe if we were, maybe none of this would have ever happened. That's right. Yeah, like if Jon Stewart stayed on the air, man, like if he didn't quit in 2015, nothing would have changed. This was just, you know what? People, they just want to have, girls just want to have fun, and elite white people just want to have power. And that's it. That's kind of the way it goes. That's what? Don't think about that now. It's summertime, baby. We're not thinking about the bad potential badness that will be coming down the road. Who cares? Just think about today. Make today count. Make today better than yesterday, right? Right? And if that means unsubscribing to this podcast, hey, whatever, that's fine. Whatever, we are not going to yuck your yum, as we sometimes say here. But we do thank you for listening. Tune in next week, where you'll hear Jacques talk with is it Mark Kelly, right? Yes. Mark Riley. Thank you. I said that so I can get him talking. I fucked up the name on purpose. I didn't. But I met the guy once. And, you know, he's an ex-hockey referee, so it's like further removed from my consciousness. Anyway, Biff, you know, hopefully you can come out from underneath all that electronic paperwork next time to join us on the podcast. But I don't really hold out any hope. You know what? I wish I had a job that demanded my attention 24 hours a day so I could say, no, sorry, I can't bullshit with you, Jacques. I have to do this thing that, you know, pays for my house that I bought with my money. But, you know, instead I'm paying rent because I planned poorly and I eat out a lot. See, what? Not smart. Not smart. Save your money, kids. That's my parenting tip. Make the money, save the money. All right? Don't spend it on just bullshit. You know, really plan it out, you know? That's why this podcast is free. You know, we wouldn't dare think of charging you to listen to us. We're not worth any. We don't have sponsors. We don't have we're not self-aware. So that's why we keep on going. No, anyways, that's enough out of me. Check out the podcast every week. Thanks to Jacques' diligence in getting things posted right and on time and with the proper icons that associate with the podcast. You know, spelling doesn't count on Carnival Personnel. I purposely picked the hardest name to spell. You know, I might as well have called it like the, you know, Chappaquiddick Bicentennial, you know, like just so I could make him have to spell that out each and every week. But no, I didn't think that far ahead. But personnel, that's a tricky one. You know, 2 N's, 1 L, you know, you want to think the other way, like person, ELL. Nope. That's how we tripped up the algorithm, you know, can't find us, can't spell us. Anyways, to the one person, Jacques, listening left, don't forget,